So this week we saw two teenagers play, one of which is listed at the age of 14. The other one is listed at the age of 17. One of those players might be slightly older than listed, but he's still quite young. I want to talk to you as a dad for a minute, because I had a real reaction watching Vaibhav come off the field crying and thinking to myself, oh, I don't know, like, I don't know how comfortable I feel about this. Obviously talent is not an issue for him. I know the long history of teenage prodigies, especially male teenage prodigies, and what happens to them, especially in sport. In fact, I went through the list the other day of the guys who've made over 1,000 runs at international cricket before turning 20. There's a lot of guys who just didn't make it and blew up and have problems in their private lives and all these different things. And so I looked at it from a dad of just like, I don't know how comfortable I feel about that. As a batter, I have no issues with him. Obviously, he's got incredible hand-eye coordination. You know, he was picking the ball up so early. I love that first shot is ridiculous. But as a dad, and that's why I'm asking you as a dad, how did you feel about the whole situation? Because you know how much pressure is now on him from here on in.
Well, pressure is going to be a part of it, and I think at every point he's turned up trumps against pressure, you know. And I think whatever little bit I know that his mom and dad have been supporting him a lot, and his dad, in fact, has been working very hard with him, and you know, with a lot of the controversies surrounding his age. And for me, you know, if he's 14 or if he's 16 or if he's 17,
exactly,
bat the way he did, it doesn't matter. Let's just celebrate the talent, the phenomenal talent that the kid is, right? Can you imagine what we were doing when we were 15, 16, 17, 14 even? If he actually is 14 or if he's actually 17, how does it matter? But at 17, what were we doing when we were 17? How much of our lives have we had sorted out, you know, at 17? Instead of celebrating what we see in front of us, we're talking about things that at this point doesn't really matter because he's already there. You know, it was a point of contention when he was playing the under-19s and you know, he didn't do well, or sorry, he did really well, and then he was taking somebody else's position, or he was playing under 15 and taking somebody else's position. Then it's then it's a point of contention. Here, I don't think it should be. And as a father, I think we don't know the whole story yet, but one can only hope that, you know, it's a fairy tale. And you know, he goes on to do some special things, and if there's anywhere we can find another Sachin Tendulkar, I would have to say it would be from India and nowhere else.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. I can get that. For every Sachin Tendulkar, my worry is that there's a lot of guys who come broken, and you know, especially in their 20s when it gets really tough in your early 20s. It's the most important thing I want fans to know is that being good at 14, 15, 16, 17, because we saw Mathre as well play really well with his old man mustache in the other game. We have to understand that there are lots of guys who've started early who don't make it. Like, you can be ready at 16 or 17 to play top level cricket and then be found out by the time you're 23 or 24. You know, there is a real issue with that, right? Like, you know, so I just don't want it to. Do you remember Matt Renshaw? Like, there was so much hype about Matt Renshaw when he played for Australia, and he spent the next 3 or 4 years just not being back in the side. That there are players who are incredibly talented as teenagers who don't make it. And there's a story of Yorkshire. I think the youngest cricketer Yorkshire ever picked was a 15-year-old wicketkeeper who, by the time I think he was 20 or 21, mate, he was managing a Tiger nightclub in Leeds, right? Probably not Leeds. I don't think they have a Tiger in Leeds, but somewhere bad, right? Yeah. Like a Tiger. You probably strolled into a Tiger nightclub once or twice when you've been in the UK. They're interesting nightclubs, is what I would say. But the point being is, at 15, he was good enough to play for Yorkshire, and he didn't develop. We just have to put all that in our minds, and it's hard because you see a kid come out, and as you said, it doesn't matter what his real age is. When you see a kid pick the ball up that early and smash the ball over cover for 6. It does something to your head. But we have to understand there is a human being beneath that, and sort of not temper, but just understand that he's going through all this at a young age as well. And we know that someone like Jaiswal obviously has like a warrior mentality. This guy might have a completely different one, right? And it might just be that they play very good, and there's plenty of players who've come through and been very good. It takes a lot to be. I suppose this is what you would know the most about. I think it takes a lot to be a great professional athlete, which is different from being a great player. Right? A great professional athlete takes a lot. And he's going to learn that in the same way that Macaulay Culkin has learned it and Justin Bieber has learned it, which is with all the spotlight on them. It's a very different kind of world.
With Yashasvi, I think he's kind of cut from a different cloth. He's an absolute cricket nerd. The hunger is relentless, right? And he wants success, and he wants to be a successful cricketer. He wants to play for India for a really long time. And when you see him, when you look at his eyes, you can see that hunger there all the time. There's an intensity about Yashasvi which is incredible. My only concern for someone like Yash is that he's going at 100 miles an hour, 24 hours a day. There needs to be a switch off, right? And I hope he finds a switch off. If he does find it, it'll do a world of good to his cricket, and I hope he finds a place to be vulnerable and feel safe enough to be vulnerable and express what he feels, and so that he can reinvigorate himself and go back to chasing what he is chasing, and pursuing what he is pursuing, as far as excellence is concerned as an athlete. With Vaibhav, on the other hand, we saw a 14-year-old kid. We saw a young kid, right? We saw an adolescent kid. Whether you call him 14 or 16, I don't really care, right? We saw an adolescent kid going through the emotions of, in his eyes, perhaps missing out on a big score,
Yeah.
and taking his team to victory, right? For me, if I perceive it from that perspective, I think it's a phenomenal, I think it's a phenomenal thing that he set really high standards for himself. But as long as he has a safe space again to talk about, what he experienced while walking back and what were those emotions, and he can talk about it, then that can be addressed, right? I actually watched him bat against Jofra Archer at the Nets 2 days before the game, right? And he went, I think, one-on-one up against Jofra, and Jofra was letting it rip, Kimber. He was letting it rip. Bouncers, snorters, yorkers. And this kid was taking him on. And when I say taking him on, I mean taking him on. He was not late on the ball. He was hitting him for boundaries. He was uppercutting him. Out of maybe 12 balls that I saw, he probably didn't connect all. Like, he probably didn't connect 4 or 5, but 70% of the balls he actually connected, right? And you could see Jofra's body language as well. This guy, interesting. And Jofra wasn't holding back. So when you see the talent that is there, and when you see that reaction, yes, we can jump into a conclusion. But for me, I'm just right now going to peg it to, hey, I think it's hunger. I think it's him wanting to do well for his team, because his team is not doing great at the moment.
No.
And if you want to be noticed in Indian cricket, then you have to do something special. Starting off with a 6, yes, is special enough, but sustaining that becomes even more special. Now, right now, he's a little fish among the sharks in the vast ocean that is BCCI cricket, that is Indian cricket. Right now, he will have to go back to first class cricket. He's not going to play for India right now. He's going to go back to first class cricket. He's going to have to score his runs. He's going to have to navigate through how the seniors treat him there. Are they treating him well enough? Are they nurturing his talent, or are they belittling his talent because of the insecurity they face and harming that talent? Now, what I would do if I were BCCI, have someone actually, someone that is perhaps from, recommended by the BCCI to coach the Bihar side that he plays for, to actually try and build a good side, but at the same time take care of this talent that is Vaibhav Suryavanshi. I would actually do that, because that talent is special, it's rare, and it needs to be valued.
Also, I was with St. Lucia when we had KS Ahmed, and I think it was his first franchise gig, and he turned up at Trinidad Airport and didn't speak English and didn't know how to get through customs. And it was only that I looked back in the line and was like, that looks like KS Ahmed. And I went up and I ended up getting him through immigration, right? And it struck me, the welfare of the younger players.
Sorry, who was this again?
KS Ahmed, the leg spinner from Afghanistan, their backup leg spinner. Yeah.
Got it.
He's the one who bowls occasional bouncers, I think. That's his big gimmick. Lovely kid, really good bowler. And he I remember thinking at the time, I think cricket has a bit of a problem with the younger players in that we're not set up from a welfare point of view. How you deal with a younger player is different than everywhere else. And we need to think about a little bit more about the general life welfare of the player. And I've seen this in a few different cricket cultures now. I've seen it in county cricket happen a few times before. I've seen it in everywhere else. And if you fit in and you're a younger player, it usually doesn't matter as much. But it's the kids who, as you said before, some of those kids are just absolutely obsessives, right? And they'll do whatever they're
Yeah,
asked to do, and it may not always be
yeah,
the exact right thing. We just have to make sure in cricket that we have that. We have had
yeah.
cases of exploiting younger players and worse stories that have come out. We just have to make sure that when we have a player like this, there is a system built up, and I think that's probably something that we're missing. Okay.
Before we close that, I
Yeah.
have an idea, man. One of the things that I've always believed that cricketers need, especially young cricketers, is a finishing school of sorts.
Mm,
A school where they're taught about media interactions, they're taught about understanding contracts, they're taught about table etiquette and stuff like that, right? So that they can present themselves really well. I know it's a 5%er, but I think that's something that adds
laundry.
tremendous value to you. Laundry, right?
Shoaib
It
Malik.
adds
Shoaib Malik
tremendous.
said that when he played for Hobart Hurricanes, he'd never done laundry before, and he's suddenly in
Yeah,
Hobart, and he has to learn how to use a washing machine. And then he says, "Oh, this is
yeah,
easy. I could have done this years ago."
yeah, yeah, and saved a lot of money as well.
Yeah. No, you see, you're
Yeah,
right,
man.
and little
So
things too, like of how you spend your money, how you spend your per diem when you're traveling, right? Like all
yeah,
the little
yeah,
tiny things that you don't understand.
yeah, and even about negotiating good deals for
Yeah.
yourself, right? Because you have to understand that our careers or our careers as athletes have a very short and condensed time span, right? An
Mm,
exceptional career, a rare one, is a 20-year career, whilst a normal corporate career is a 40-year career.
yeah.
Right? So people cribbing about, oh, cricketers making a lot of money is as in, if you have to kind of justify that, it's just because we make a lot more money in a shorter period of time. That is our timeline in this sport. And if we have to do a lot of things right, like you have to do a lot of things right in the corporate world,
Mm,
and things have to go your way, and if you're exceptionally lucky, then you will have, like, the average IPL career is a 5-year, 3 to 5 year career.
yeah.
The average, yeah, the average, I reckon, a good IPL career is a 8 year career, 5 to 8 year career. A rare one is a 10 to 12 year. An exceptionally rare one is a 15-year career. And stuff of dreams are a 20-year career, which guys like Virat Kohli, Sachin Tendulkar, MS Dhoni, a lot of them are actually exercising right now. Been in the industry for over 20 years and going as far as they can. Like if you look at, say, Rahul Dravid, started in 1996, finished into 2011,
Mm,
right? And we reckon he's one of the greatest batters that came out of India. He had a 16-year career, and that is small, right? And so if we actually work with these kids from a young age and get them well-rounded, what tends to happen is after they do finish, or when they get to the back end of their career, what happens is, instead of going through a steep fall of significance, relevance, and financial the ability to earn financially at the same levels,
mm.
then you can set yourself up at the back end, and you can start, like the Dinesh Kartiks of the world and I did, right? We started getting into broadcasting, started talking about stuff, and I've gotten into life coaching right now and performance coaching right now. So you can navigate through that, and all they need to do is actually focus on that.
No, look, it's such a. I don't think people really understand just how weird it is, because you look at the NBA players who make a lot more than cricketers, and something like 80% of them are bankrupt within 5 years of leaving the
Yeah,
NBA, because
yeah,
they get their money between the age of 22 and 32 when they're not mature enough to handle being a multimillionaire, right?
yeah,
Whereas the
yeah,
general millionaires in the world have either learnt how to make their money so they can continually make it for the rest of their life, or they've made it when they're 30, 40, 50, right? And they have a good system around them. Like, and you're right. Like I've been out with cricketers who are late 20s, early 30s, who have a really weird diet because they never matured enough, and everyone just kept giving them the food that they wanted. So, they would tour Sri Lanka and they would be given, the whole Shane Warne thing of like traveling with baked beans and all that sort of stuff, right? That's just because he wasn't said, well, how about this, Shane?
I
How about
actually
we
thought
sit you
that was
down and show you
folklore.
all the different foods from around the world and see what you
Yeah,
like? Because there's going to be a meal in India, in Pakistan, in Sri Lanka that you're going to like. You just haven't tried it yet. It's tiny little things like that that we haven't got to, and it's such a fractured sport, right? Like, that you're going to have to understand all these different cultures as you go in, and you're going to
mm,
have to work through them, and we're just
mm,
not setting them up for the success that they could have at the moment. So it's a fascinating conversation, man. It's great to hear. And look, I would have been an absolute basket case if I was famous at 14, but I would have been an absolute basket case if I was famous at 25, right? Like I just wouldn't have been ready for that, right? Like people say to me, oh, you've got, a few subscribers now. And I'm like, yeah, but if they had all come early in my career, I probably would have become an absolute monster. Like I would have gone off the deep end, right? I've been lucky that it's been drip fed.
Yeah, I can tell you, as I'll be the first one to put my hand up. I won my first World Cup at 21. I made my first $1 million at 22, 23. I was a basket case. I had no idea how to deal with fame. I had no idea how to deal with money. And I lost the plot for a good fair bit. And it's taken me a lot of mistakes to learn. And I genuinely would not like to have youngsters go through what I've been through. And this is actually roots from there. The fact that I've been through it and I don't want others to go through it.